Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 66. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Let us be the last to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and the first to wish you a Happy New Year. Dave, how was your Christmas?
Let's go Pens! Let's go Pens!
Let's go Browns! Let's go
Browns!
Let's go
Browns! Oh, I guess there is still a chance there. Yeah, my Christmas was good. Look, we do low profile, high drag, you know. So we went to the casino first thing in the morning. I mean, I'm talking first thing in the morning, like 4:00, and had a nice breakfast and all, nice, peaceful, tranquil morning, if you will, and you know, I cherish those. I mean, maybe one day when you get to be my age, you will as well. But, you know, obviously we both work extremely hard on the site day in, day out. So to get a little time away like that, and that was nice. And then last night I did lay on the couch for a little bit and watch a little bit of TV, which is a rarity as well too. So and plus I ate a ton of food, way too much.
What's a Dave Bryan breakfast? What are you getting?
Oh man, steak and eggs. I mean, South Point Casino. Any of you listening, and I don't know, it'd be nice to get them as a sponsor one day for the podcast. But South Point Casino is on the south end of the strip. It's a fairly newer casino, if you will, and not as busy. They even they have a sports book in there. In fact, they have some radio. They have which I always stand and admire. They have kind of like a radio booth inside the casino there, right near the sports book, and that's where Brett Musburger does one of his radio shows from as well too. So very nice casino, kind of really laid back, I guess, kind of a Western theme to it, and a couple of nice cafes and restaurants and all in there. So that's kind of where we like to get away. It's probably about a good 10-minute drive from the house, but easy to get to and all. So that's a little plug for South Point Casino.
Very cool. Well, Dave, kind of a quiet week, relatively speaking, in terms of Steelers talk. We can go into Tomlin's press conference from Tuesday. Pretty short, not a lot of reporters there. I think it was only a 14-minute press conference. If you want to start with the injury report, I don't know if that's where you want to go or some of the comments that he made, but Tomlin talking to the media yesterday.
Yeah, and let's just start with this. The whole reality of the situation. I mean, probably a blue Christmas for a lot of Steelers fans, right? I mean, you go from this team, entering the final quarter of the season with high hopes, thinking that just win a couple of these games, if you will, and you're going to be in the playoffs one way or the other, and they just couldn't get it done. And you come out of that Saints game, and without a doubt, I mean, this is a Steelers team, at least offensively, that can beat any team in the league. But also, this is a Steelers team, even with the offense, that will have the inopportune turnover at the wrong time, and then you combine that with not knowing week in, week out, how your defense is going to play. And I still don't want to take anything away from the way this defense played against the Patriots to get a key stop late in the game. But there hasn't been enough of these with this defense this year, and it just has always seemed like it always goes back on the onus of the offense, to get this thing done. And then obviously, that didn't happen on Sunday against the Saints. And I think the last couple of days, I've kind of been running around in my mind, just kind of the finality of the gravity of this situation, if you will. That, man, here they are. They need to win in Week 17 here against the Bengals, and they're going to need a Browns team to beat the Ravens, because I just don't see how one can root for a tie between the Colts and the Titans there, because of just the improbability of that happening there. So that's kind of where my mind is heading into this Wednesday, and then obviously we had the Mike Tomlin press conference on Tuesday. Injury, as far as the injury report goes. Vince Williams with a toe. What did Mike initially call that coming out of the game? Do you remember?
A foot.
A foot,
he called it.
Okay, and so he got a little bit more specific with it on Wednesday. They're calling it, or on Monday calling it a toe. Sean Davis is another one that he has a quad, and Mike Tomlin said he's downstairs managing it right now. We'll see where that leads us in terms of his participation throughout the week and ultimately play. Vince Williams went down in the game with a toe that's being evaluated. His availability is in question. Obviously, we'll watch him throughout the course of the week in terms of his practice participation. And the same thing with James Conner. Tomlin went on to say, I thought his participation was on the upswing at the end of last week with his ankle. We'll be watching him close and seeing if he's able to be a positive contributor to our efforts this week. And obviously his practice participation and effectiveness will be a major factor in that. I don't know where you want to guess on these guys. I mean, Vince Williams has only missed one game, right? And that was what, earlier this season. We'll see about him. Sean Davis, I would tend, based on kind of when Mike Tomlin was asked kind of later in the press conference, to say, well, who would fill in for those guys? He kind of stopped the media short and said, right now we're not ready to paint with a broad brush and exclude those guys. We're going to leave the light on for them. I know that's their mentality. It was just expressed to me by Davis downstairs, and you like that. The guys better have a lean-in mentality this time of year, and those guys do. So kind of hard to guess. We'll see what the Wednesday injury report comes out, but I would fully expect Sean Davis and Vince Williams to be on that. I would probably be surprised if either one of those guys were anything more than limited, and really the same thing with James Conner. And at this point right now, do you want to the last thing you want to do is rush James Conner back? I mean, I know it'd be nice to have him back, but if that ankle's not ready, and if you think there's an outside chance that you might be able to get into the playoffs, obviously you do have to win this game first and foremost. You can't just look past the Bengals. But I would be kind of judicious with the way I handled James Conner this week.
Me too, and I pretty much agree. We'll see what happens. If Vince can't go, Fort will play a big role. If Davis can't go, probably going to be Dangerfield in at free safety. I think that's how they've done it in the past. We'll see. I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, it would be interesting for sure, because what do you do? I mean, you had Dangerfield play quite a few snaps in the middle of the season there after Burray went down. Obviously, Marcus Allen was active for just the one game, but you do have the 5 safeties, I think, still on your roster, and only dressing 4 of those. I suppose it would be Dangerfield.
Yeah, because I don't think they had Burnett done a lot of free safety. They just kind of kept Burnett in his spot. But we'll see what happens. Like you said, I think Wednesday's practice report will be a good jumping off point, and we'll go from there.
Another thing about this season that really, if it obviously if it continues down the path that it's going, or it looks like right now with them not making the playoffs, the other discouraging thing to throw on top of everything else. I mean, this was a team that had the second best odds to win a conference many moons ago. It was the Patriots and then the Steelers, I think, had the second best odds to win, not just AFC, but to be a conference winner there. The thing that goes along with that is this team's been relatively healthy all year long. I mean, yeah, Marcus Gilbert, went down, but it became really an afterthought with him on a week-in, week-out basis because of the way Matt Filer and Chooks had played. That, okay, well, they're making it fine without him. And obviously you had James Conner on the back end of this season with his ankle injury, but for the most part, I mean, this has been an injury-free season for the Steelers. And how many times are we able to say that to that degree? Obviously I think there's a lot of luck that goes along with injuries, and for this team that had such high prospects to not even have the injury bug to deal with this year is just another thing that just makes you face palm.
Yep, I mean, injuries can't be used as really an excuse because Steelers have it better than probably 28 teams in the NFL this year. So Tomlin was asked a lot about penalties, which was to be expected. I thought maybe the most interesting thing he said, the most honest part he said, beyond just the cliche stuff so he doesn't get fined, was talking about the 4th and 2 pass interference on Joe Hayden. Tomlin said that he did not think that Tua had tipped the football, but he also didn't think it was pass interference. And he made that point specifically. He wasn't even asked about that. He said it kind of as there was a lull in the moment. What was your thoughts on that?
Man, I know you've looked at this thing probably 20 times, and I've done it 400 times. I think you have to call hold or pass interference on Hayden either way. It does look and look, yes, Michael Thomas is a little bit handsy coming off of the line of scrimmage on that play as well too. But you just can't pull the guy down like Hayden does. And then you can't get that back arm wrapped around him the way it does. If you look frame by frame at the TV view, that I have going backwards and forwards to show how inconclusive the to-it tip is, which I still not convinced he even hit that ball. But you start seeing coming into frame, Thomas come into frame, and Hayden's got him hooked pretty good with that left arm around him. And I just don't see how you can say that he was 100% innocent. And yeah, I know AB using the defense that AB gets held all the time is not how you defend your team committing a penalty. You have to look at each play in a vacuum, if you will. And I think if you go frame by frame with this, not so much on the all 22, but on the TV tape, I understand why he was flagged, and I also understand why they ruled that it was not a tip ball. So I go against Tomlin on the whole DPI thing because I think Hayden was just a little bit too physical in that situation there.
So do I. I think the tip is inconclusive. Yes, you can argue that it was tipped. It's really hard to say. The call is the call, and I don't think you can overturn it, given that there was no indication from the refs that it was tipped. And then the PI or the holding, I mean, there's definitely a penalty there. Even if you want to argue that it's holding and not PI, it's still a first down. I mean, Hayden grabs Thomas, inside the numbers and pulls him down, pulls him forward. That's going to be a call. I'm sorry. You can be a little aggressive and punch him, but you can't grab and pull him down. That's going to be holding for anybody. So I didn't have a big problem with either of those calls.
Now, you're not just taking the company line, right?
I'm getting that sweet Dave Bryan money to shut me up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. People have this notion that you follow suit with me. Look, I mean, Alex speaks his own mind here. If he didn't think this was the way it is, I mean, you've looked at it, right? I mean, it looks like he hauls him down just right off the line and then gets the arm around him as he's coming out of the break there. I just don't see where Tomlin's coming from to say that's not PI.
We were accused by one random Facebook dude like a month ago of taking that sweet Rooney money. So I'm waiting for that check to clear. It hasn't happened yet.
Lord, if that money comes in, hell yeah, you're going to be following suit then.
Yeah, so I'm taking Dave Bryan money until I get that Rooney money. Then I'm taking what the Roonies give me. So
I mean, the Dave Bryan money's not bad, but
it ain't Rooney money.
It ain't Rooney money, right? But look, make no mistake about it. And I think Matthew somewhat disagrees with us too, and I haven't fired him.
After the new year, you're just waiting for it.
Right. The penalties definitely sucked in this game, but without a doubt, I mean the early Hayden PI, horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. Call, but moving forward from that, I mean, could they have called on the should the McDonald call, next to last play, I guess, if you will, had been ruled pass interference and not holding, and would that have changed the play call after that? Yeah, I mean, I can see, because look, go back to what, and I think I put this to what Gene Steratore put in there, his tweet in the one about the Mike Tomlin quote there on the PI and all. Gene wrote, "This play was defensive holding that evolved into pass interference. In scenarios like this, the officials will enforce the pass interference penalty as the holding continued while the pass was in the air." And I think this is exactly what happened here. And I don't understand. Part of me thinks this is Mike Tomlin just standing behind his player in Joe Hayden, because Joe Hayden's comments the other day after the game, I don't understand how us defensive backs can play. Look, I admit it's a very slanted game for the offense right now. And, if you're in a big game, in a big crowd situation, probably the home team's going to get that flag 8 times out of 10, It sucks. I mean, that's why it's called home field advantage, right? And yes, there were penalties in this game that were a little bit disturbing. I still don't know what happened on that second quarter one where, and I put a gif of that last night on my timeline, Twitter. He throws the flag. And that was after Ben was taken down kind of aggressively, and I think he tried to rip the ball loose, and then Grimble tries to take how do you pronounce his last name? Anzalone down. And then I think Anzalone says something, to Grimble is all I can get, and then a flag comes out, and then all of a sudden that flag disappears. So that was a little bothersome to me. What other penalties bothered you the most in this game?
It was really just the Hayden PI. I thought the Vance illegal contact was going to be pass interference at the end of the game. I thought it should have been pass interference, not just illegal contact. The refs at one point ruled too many men on the field. Then they realized they counted wrong and picked up the flag. So that was ultimately irrelevant, but an embarrassing moment. But really, again, we went through all the penalties on Monday's show. The Hayden PI, to at least us, was the only super egregious, 100%, no doubt, terrible call. All the other ones can be generally debated and argued, and a lot of the officials or former officials say that it was the right call. And again, I know that the magnitude of the moments were different in terms of when the penalties were called. The Saints were flagged more and had more yards assessed against them than the Steelers by game's end.
All right, now, what did you think about the touchdown to Thomas? Did you think that was a push-off or no?
Not enough. I mean, it's so tough to draw offensive pass interference. It's got to be blatant, and to me, it didn't reach that level.
Me either. It looked more like hand fighting there, and it looked like Hayden slipped,
I mean, there's a little bit of a push, some contact, but the receiver's going to get that. That's just the reality. AB gets that all the time, so we can't complain about Thomas when AB thrives off of that.
All right. Someone said we didn't talk enough about the play with the deep pass to Michael Thomas down the right side that was bang, and Sean Davis knocked the ball out, and Mike Tomlin didn't challenge that. Mike Tomlin talked about that or was asked about that yesterday as well too. And let's see if I got the quotes on that here handy. What did you think? Did you think he should have challenged that?
Looking back at it after you posted it, I thought it's definitely a closer play, because when I saw it live and they showed the one replay, I thought it was a catch. It's hard to tell because I think that foot gets obstructed by another body, so it's one of those where it's like, is there enough evidence to show that he stepped out, even if you think he did? That foot didn't come down fully in bounds.
No. So I'm talking about the other one on the deep pass down the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Down the right hand side.
Davis knocked it out.
Right.
Okay, my bad. Again, that one's such a bang play. I know it looks good, like you could win that, but I don't think they're winning that, so I was okay with it, no challenge.
Mike Tomlin says, I don't know whether legally they would have allowed me to challenge or not based on the initial reading on the field. First of all, that's not what you want coming out of your coach's mouth there. I don't know whether legally they would have allowed me to challenge or not. Hopefully,
I guess the real issue there would just be, would there be enough of a clear recovery, which there was, to challenge it? Would they have let that play continue?
The thing is there's a clear recovery by Burnett on that play.
Right.
And whether or not the whistle was blowing right away, because it's hard to discern when the whistle was blowing after Burnett picked that thing up. Was it immediately ruled incomplete and we just couldn't tell with the whistles, or was it about 3.5 seconds after Burnett?
Yeah, but that's what I think Tomlin is saying there, just to be clear.
All right, I'm not so sure, but he says, but in my bird's eye view, I thought it was banged out and it was an incomplete pass. They were definitive about it, and we moved on. The thing is as you mentioned, there was that 12 man on the field call right after that. So Tomlin had plenty of time to chew on that. Now, I'm looking at the replay right now that I have the clip up on. He catches it, and there's about a step and 3/4. He gets the almost 2 full steps, if you will, before Davis comes through and knocks that ball out. And to me, there was enough of a football move to put that ball away that I think I would have challenged it, depending on what angle. If I had the TV angle right after this thing happened and I saw this just the way I'm looking at it right now, in the moment, I think I would have challenged it.
But if you know it's bang bang, which it was, and if the refs are adamant that it was an incompletion, you got to look at it from the refs' point of view. Even if we think that it's the wrong call, it can be overturned. If you have the refs, the guys making the determination, saying it was incomplete, 100%. I mean, what would give you the reason to challenge it at that point?
Well, because they'd have to look at it in a video.
No, I know. But they seem pretty confident that it was incomplete, and you're banking on them being just totally wrong enough to get to that point of overturning the call, not just going from confirmed or the call standing. Now you have to get enough evidence for them to overturn it. And I just don't think your odds in that situation are great, knowing what you know before you decide to challenge.
Well, what's your odds in most of these situations anyway? I mean, you're challenging it because you think they got it wrong.
Well, no, I understand that, but there's a difference between like a really close play where you think a ref just missed something, or there was a bad angle, or whatever the case was, or the refs immediately ruling incomplete, which it seemed like they did, and then coming to you and saying, yeah, it was incomplete. And there wasn't a big discussion about it. There wasn't a spot thing. It was just, I don't know. I'm just saying I understand why he didn't, because based on what the refs were saying and based on the bang nature of the play, I don't think he's winning that one. I'm just going to be honest here.
Well,
I think you can argue that it was. I think you could try to argue it, and that's fine. I don't think you're getting to the point of overturning the call. I think maybe the call stands, but I don't think you're overturning it.
That was first half, right?
Yes.
And they had 2 timeouts left at the time. Was that right?
I'd have to look. Probably. Before.
I think I challenge it because of the situation there. How much do you think it? You don't think it played into Tomlin's misses last 10 challenges or whatnot? Do you think that played any into it?
Nah, I don't think he cares about that.
And I guess the other question would be: does Tomlin need Jerry? Did you see that the other day in that Oakland game? Who's the former NFL official, Jerry? What's his last name? The older guy. Anyway, the Raiders hired him to be the to be upstairs help, a rules analyst on the staff and all, and somehow Gruden ends up challenging something he can't challenge.
Like the third time this year he challenged a touchdown or something.
Right. And something that's automatic. Anyway, I think it got the Raiders a penalty there. But does Tomlin need some of that taken off of him upstairs?
I mean, well, one, I assume there's somebody upstairs communicating with him. It's not just Tomlin going off of his own gut, especially on the road, because you should benefit a replay on those close plays to go against the home team when you're on the road. So he's got somebody in his ear, somebody probably not giving him the best information. Does he need a specific rules guy? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be the worst idea, but as Tomlin said in the past, and I kind of agree, that's kind of the job of the head coach. If you're not doing that, then that's a problem that's got to be addressed in your job, resume, rather than just getting somebody to do it for you.
I think he should have somebody up there, not only with some clock assist, Look, I mean, there's like 3 books written on time, on time management in football.
I just think Tomlin has to get better at it. I think I want him to get better at it, not somebody just to do it for him.
Well, he's had this long to not get, and he hasn't gotten better at it.
Well, they've had this long to hire somebody for him, and it doesn't seem like they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they're more into analytics than they let on, I do, but I mean, I would like to see more of that kind of stuff addressed. But anyway, we'll save a little bit of that talk for after the season. There, what else? I just think that would have been a perfect time to challenge that on the Thomas play. What else do we have from Tomlin that caught your eye?
Just real quick for that Thomas play, do you really think? Be honest here. Do you think they're winning that challenge if Tomlin does throw the red flag?
No, I'm not 100% sure I do. No, I'm not 100%.
What percent would you put it at that it's going to be overturned?
I'd say 40, maybe 30 to 40.
That's too rich for me. I don't think they're overturning it. I think it's like a 10% chance.
I mean, if you look at this thing, he moves that ball, and I mean he moves that ball to the other arm, and then he's looking at Davis coming at him at that point. To me that thing, it will get into the point of how much of a football move is made,
Yeah, I don't trust the refs to figure that stuff out.
All right.
That's where I'm at.
If it's second half in that same situation, and I have 2 timeouts or whatnot, and the game, is as close or whatnot, maybe I don't. But in the first half, I think I do.
All right, I get it. Yeah, Tomlin, again, not a whole lot going on. Talking about Juju and recovery. Juju's going to be fine, obviously. He's going to make some big plays this Sunday. I don't have any concerns about that. But clearly he's kind of been at his lowest point this week for the loss. And he's 22, and that's got to weigh on him super heavily because he's really somebody that's never had to deal with a moment like this before. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that kid. No, not one bit. If it was James Washington right now, maybe I'd be a little bit more worried. But I'm not worried about him. That Juju's comfortable in his skin.
Mm-hmm. Anything? I have one thing I want to talk about that's not Tomlin related, but anything else from the presser that you wanted to touch on?
No, just the cliche. We're not going to look past Cincinnati. We're not going to watch the scoreboard. That kind of thing. Is what Tomlin talked about yesterday. I don't think there's really anything too much past that. If there was, I think Matthew will be maybe mopping that up with a post or two later on today.
Okay. The one thing I wanted to talk about, and I wrote a post on it yesterday, so if you read Steelers Depot on Christmas, thank you. But two, you probably know what I'm going to talk about here. We talked about the refs and the poor calls and how much that hurt this team, and that's all understandable and true. But, I've gone through and I've cited 10 different plays on the Steelers' end of their own mistakes and own problems that could have still won them the game in spite of the poor officiating. And to me, this wasn't at the top of the charts because maybe they score anyway, but start the second half. It's 3rd and goal. Saints have the ball at the Steelers' 1-yard line. They come out in 12 personnel. There's an extra, which the second tight end being a 6th offensive lineman, and so they have kind of a heavier personnel in. And for some reason, and help me out here, Dave, if you can explain it for me, Keith Butler goes to his dime package with Morgan Burnett, their 2-3-6 dime, and lo and behold, they give up an easy rushing score to Kamara. I mean, I've had this issue with personnel, mismatches all year long, and Butler trying to get cute and do different personnel groupings as opposed to what the offense is showing. To me, that's one of the worst mistakes he's made all year long. You're playing dime defense against the good Saints, run offense, the team that has the most rushing touchdowns in football, and you basically just forced Mike Hilton to try to make a play on Kamara on the goal line. Of course, he's going to lose that one. That's the stuff that kills you. That's the stuff that you can clearly control, and that's stuff of players not being put in position to win.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't have any answer for it at all. No, I don't.
I mean, they were in their goal line defense the play before because the Saints were in 23 personnel, so they were in really heavy, run look. Then they sub out to bring in a couple receivers in, so the Steelers make a sub, which is fine. But you got to play your base defense there. You got to play your 3-4. Get your corners in the game, fine with that. But you don't have Hargrave in the game. He's played fantastic this year. You don't have an extra inside linebacker in the game. You're forcing Vince and Sean Davis and Burnett and Hilton to take on offensive linemen. and you wonder why you're giving up red zone touchdowns. Saints were 4-4 in the red zone. That was a huge stat to me.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just one of the things that, egregious, in that situation for sure.
Yep. And no, I know there's really no one has an answer for it. I've talked to with a lot of people on Steelers Depot, and we're just kind of all, shaking our heads and just going, what the heck happened? So you talk about all the things the Steelers could control in this game, whether that's the turnovers, the 3rd and 20, this, that, the other. I look at those plays and say, if you control those things, if you make good decisions, maybe the outcome is different. Because if you hold to a field goal there, that's huge. Instead it's a touchdown. Now it's 24-14, and you're trying to climb out of that hole for the rest of the game.
And talk about the 3rd and 20. We were sitting on, we thought we knew what the concept was prior to the all 22 coming out. I know you're like me. You probably have about 6 plays circled that as soon as the all 22 all 22 hits, we run right to them to see what happened there. It was a dagger concept, a little bit different with the 3 with the 2 verticals on the one side there. Normally you'll see maybe 1 vertical on a side, but they made sure they were set up with enough verticals on that side, if they did see the quarters coverage, which I assume is what you saw on that, that they were going to run that right out of there to clear out that that kind of that 15-yard in-breaking route on there. I mean, it's a nicely designed play. It was called at the right at the right time against the right defense. Now here's the thing. We chastised Butler for blitzing Drew Brees so much, especially early on in the game, in just regular, kind of down and distance situations that we were upset about. If there's any time that maybe you want to send numbers after Brees, isn't it 3rd and 20?
I was fine with them not blitzing because I think it is ineffective, and you want enough bodies to be able to tackle the catch. Because hopefully, ideally, at least before the play happened, you think maybe they'll throw something short. They could hit you with a screen or something quick to try to get up some yards for a 4th and more manageable situation. So I was fine with the no blitz. I didn't love the call. I guess it's easy to say in hindsight. They don't play a ton of cover 4. Usually you get more man coverage in that situation. 2-man kind of thing would have been, I think, a better idea. It was a really good design and play call from the Saints. You have to tip your hat to Sean Payton and Drew Brees. But I wouldn't have blitzed, though. I was fine with a no blitz.
I think I would have sent – I want that ball out quick in 3rd and 20. And I want to take my chances that I'm going to, even if I give up 8 yards, I'm setting up a 4th and 12. I want that ball out.
The blitz wasn't even getting home, though. Hilton and Sutton couldn't time it to save their lives.
Yeah, well, I'd send it from the inside.
Well, you only have 1 inside linebacker on the field.
Yeah, I'd still get after him. I want to try to take my chances of getting that ball out quicker there.
Yeah, I don't know. I was fine with the no blitz. It hadn't been. I mean, Brees was 7 for 11 for 85 yards against the blitz. It wasn't working.
Right. That's. I mean, how many times have we said perfect play call? Against the Steelers in this situation. I thought that maybe they had given up more than third and say 15 or more. It felt like they had given that up more this year, but I went back and looked, and it was just a Saints game and a one against the Buccaneers, I think, earlier in the season. But man, what a very inopportune time, to give that up on the heels of already, seemingly getting past a 4th and 2 in that situation. You got to come up with a key stop at some point, during drives like that. I mean, you have multiple chances to get off the field, and you couldn't, in those situations. That's what's really frustrating. And yes, the other team's paid to make you, paid to make you pay in situations, and nobody's probably better at it than Drew Brees right now. But man, they had opportunities to get off the field there. And did you ever find the other play that Ginn was talking about, or Peyton was talking about, that they had tried to run maybe a similar play to that dagger concept, that the pressure just was too much on the play? I couldn't find it. I haven't
seen it yet. I'll let you know if I do.
I did find, though, earlier in the game where they ran a double move on the second sack that they had of Breeze. again had run a double move from the left side of the formation, and he was wide open down the left. And there was a bust in that, I think, probably mostly on Edmonds in that situation right there, that if they don't get to Breeze in that situation, that's probably a home run.
Yeah, still some issues with some spot dropping. I saw another time in the game where you have, two verticals and only Hayden is there. So, my thoughts on that, on the spot dropping and the zone coverage. It's been lessened, but it still can be an issue. And that's why I didn't get too mad about the refs, especially the 4th and 2 PI, because the next play after that PI on Hayden in the fourth quarter was a holding call on the Saints. So immediately they go in a 1st and 20. That's an entirely winnable situation for the Steelers. You get 2 incomplete passes. You're in 3rd and 20. You win the game right there. 3rd and 20, most teams are sealing the deal, and Pittsburgh didn't. And that's why when you go through all the ref stuff, and yes, the refs, had issues and it impacted the game and blah, 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 Steelers still had very clear opportunities to finish this game. And for some reason this year, they just aren't.
Yeah, they're not. You can't turn the football over twice like that. Back to the fake punt again. And I think Tomlin, didn't he address that yesterday somewhat? Just saying,
briefly for a moment.
Yeah, that he did like the play in that situation there. I think the main thing that I still don't get how people can write what an awful, what an awful game or season changing decision that was by Tomlin. Look, obviously the down and distance, when you go back and look at it, we talk about the Georgia play against Alabama or Florida. I forget what play that was. But, obviously down and distance probably has a lot to do with it and the style of fake maybe that you run in those situations. If they convert that, I mean, is anybody at all writing anything about how stupid Tomlin is or how bad a decision that was, if they get it?
Well, no. I mean, obviously, it's one of those hindsight things, but as you talked about on Monday's show, initially you felt like it was a hindsight play where if it works, everyone loves it. If it doesn't work, everyone kills it. But you even agreed that it was probably just still a bad call regardless of whether it worked or not.
Right, because of the down and distance and the style that it would, and the type play that was run. Yes. But I mean, how many people were writing that because, face it, it's a heavily results biased play.
Yeah, but I mean, you can apply that to a million things. What are we writing about? Anything that doesn't or does happen? I'm not gonna go there.
I just think because the gravity of it. Because look, I mean, he didn't want his defense back out there, right? I mean,
they were getting stops. They had only given up one touchdown that half. And that was in the first possession.
I think he looked at the quarters in his pocket and the set of dice he's playing with, and probably said he used up all of his luck at that. I don't know.
If you want to go for it, then just keep your offense, who's on a pace to set the most points ever in a season, on the field. If you really want to go for it, let your playmakers have the football. Instead, you're letting Rosie Nix carry the ball.
Right. And that's that's where I think the argument here is especially with the down and distance. If we're talking 4th and 2, 2.5, then high diddle send Rosie up the middle.
Yeah, that's what I said on Monday. I like the reference.
Yeah. Is that nursery rhyme still in your era there? Did your mama sing that to you?
Probably, but I remember the old Steelers broadcaster for Fran Rogel, hey diddle Rogel, up the middle when the Steelers were that 3 yards on a cloud of dust kind of team back in the 60s, I think it would have been.
There you go. That shows your football history there.
Like I said on Monday's show, yeah, if it's 4th or 2, I mean, you can get that yardage because it's that element of surprise. But especially once you motion Dangerfield out, which is what they did, they put him out wide. Like, the Saints have alarm bells going off in their head. Like, hey, something's up. But that's the other problem. I think maybe that play works. I know you take one guy out of the box, but maybe that play works if you don't move Dangerfield, because now you got some big alarm bells going off.
Right. Or give, we see throughout games how opposing or punt return teams will get a little bit lackadaisical and not the punt rush won't be so much as maybe the return might be on, and that in other words, you'll see those guys as soon as the ball snaps, they're going back the other way instead of going after rushing hard in those situations. Well, obviously your guys off the edge are probably still going to come hard, but unless you have a full-fledged block on, sometimes especially late in the game situation there where they're thinking, and I haven't gone back and looked at see how they reacted, but I'll tell you this, they probably reacted a little bit different than maybe what they were going to react initially once they saw Dangerfield motion out. You're begging for at least one of the guys on the 11 on the other side saying, hey, what the hell's going on here?
Mm-hmm. And with Dangerfield, that's not just a dude getting moved out. That's the quarterback of the punting unit. That's the personal protector, the up back, whatever you want to call him. That's the dude that communicates everything, that's integral to everything, helps snap the football too. And now he's gone. Now you've moved him out of the play. So that's not just a random guy getting moved. That's like Ben getting flexed out. It's like, what the heck is going on? So that's the level we're talking about here when we see Dangerfield motion out to the slot.
Right, and it goes back again to down and distance. Sure, maybe you can run that same thing if it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3, but I think that's probably where you draw the line. But it was a 4th and 5, 6. That's.
I'm sure dangerous. I'm sure they saw something, but I still didn't like it.
All right. Anything else that stuck out, from that game?
Nah, I think we've discussed it, dissected it pretty well. Steelers had their chances. You turn the football over too many times, you lose a turnover battle. The Saints go 4 for 4 in the red zone. Those are things that are tough to overcome against any team, especially an excellent team like the Saints, number 1 seed in the NFC, at their place. It's just, you're asking a lot.
What did you see in the sack breakdown?
The first 2 were weird. They were mostly covered stuff. Really hard to pin on an offensive lineman. The third one was Jalen Samuels again, blowing a chance on Demario Davis, letting them through. The woes of a rookie. I think, again, the start of the year, his pass protection was better than I expected. I think as teams are starting to go after him more, getting more used to him and his issues in pass protection, they're challenging him more often, and I think he's having some big problems.
All right, shall we get to some emails here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Tyler Golford writes, Dave and Alex, my question is more or less procedural, administrative, and I'll keep this short and sweet. Have the Steelers already more or less made their decision on whether guys like Butler, Porter, etc. will return next year regardless of what happens with the rest of the season, or would making the playoffs maybe save their jobs in spite of their issues this season? Thanks, guys. Love the show, insight, and hope to hear what you think. Look, I'm not going to pretend to know what goes on that deep behind the closed doors there, but I would think you're just so concentrated, Rooney and whoever, just so wrapped up right now with what's happening now. To me, I think it's kind of fruitless to kind of in the back of your head say he's gone, to treat it more like a fan might, Personally, I think you just have to wait because what happened? Look. Like, it looks bad right now, but if, and it's a big if, the Browns win, and I do think the Steelers can beat the Bengals, and by the way, we'll have a further kind of breakdown of the Bengals on Friday. We just didn't think it was fair to get the beat writer in here a day after Christmas and all like that, so we'll try to break that down a little bit more in depth on Friday for you guys and gals. But I just find it hard to believe that Art Rooney already has his check marks next to names.
Yeah, I'm sure Colbert and Rooney have a better, they're leaning a certain way, more so than Tomlin, because Tomlin is so in the weeds with the day-to-day stuff. But Tomlin's going to be a part of any conversation. I'm not saying he's going to be the deciding factor. I think it's a, consensus you come to in those situations. But Tomlin's going to be a big part of those conversations. And those conversations with Tomlin, I'm sure, have not happened yet, because you're focused on the season. So nothing's been decided because Tomlin hasn't been part of that conversation yet, I'm sure. But I'm sure that Colbert and Rooney kind of have an idea of where they want to go.
All right. Thank you for that question. This one's from Sanguian. One, if the Steelers don't make the playoffs, does that help Le'Veon Bell's value? He writes, national idiots think him being gone is one of the primary reasons why the Steelers are struggling. Let's take that question first. No, I don't think the Steelers potentially not making the playoffs helps Le'Veon Bell's value. I don't think not having him. Look, would it have made a difference in a game or two? I mean, I suppose it could have, but I mean, James Conner early on in the season was doing some Le'Veon Bell type things. Would have made a difference maybe in some of those games that they didn't have James Conner, or let's say maybe from the Panthers game on. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it'd been nice to have him on the field as opposed to not having him at all. But I'm not putting. I think that ranks way down the list of why the Steelers are where they're at right now, not having Le'Veon Bell. And I don't think it's made one iota of a difference in his value.
Yeah, to me it has no difference in his value because what's the statement here? Le'Veon Bell helps you win? Yeah, I think we all know that, so I don't think it changes his value.
And you don't think it's the reason why they're struggling, right?
Well, I mean, obviously it'd be a different story if he was there. It would help. How much would it change things? I don't know for sure, but I'm not. When I look back at this season, that's not the reason I'm going to point to.
Right, exactly. I don't think it's helped his value either. All right, number 2. Why do you think the Steelers closed out games last year but struggled with closing out games this season? Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, but I mean, you go back to last year. I mean, do we have recency kind of in our heads there? I mean, they've given away some over the last couple years as well. And how many of those did the offense had to bail them out with some last minute field goals? How many times last year can you rattle off in your head? Oh, thank God for the defense for closing that one out.
Well, the question didn't say the defense. It just said the team, whether that's offense or defense or special teams making the play.
Okay.
And
all right.
I don't think it's recency bias because I don't have the numbers. I looked at them midway through the year. But the Steelers in one possession games from like 2014 to 2017 have a really good record. This year they're like 500, I think. So there's a legitimate point there. Now, why is that? I don't know. Special teams has something to do with it. Obviously, Boswell made a lot of clutch kicks in the past, and for the Oakland game, for example, you have the disaster that ended up there. So that's one element of it. But other than that, I can't give you a good reason why. It's different, but I don't know why.
Yeah, that's something that the Steelers are certainly going to have to figure out. Number 3 kind of plays into it, I think, as well, too. What can they learn from this season to ensure a successful season next year? God, that's I had to smoke a joint.
Okay. It's a response I don't know I was expecting.
We'll try,
It's a day after Christmas.
Geez, what can they learn from this season, Alex?
That's a pretty big loaded question. You need more playmakers. You need more talent in the secondary. You need some ball skills.
You need more talent on this defense, for sure. Look, I mean, I think based on the people that are set to come back, next year under contract and all like that. I mean, give me this offense next year and I'm fine with it. Spend all your damn draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. Did you see my list?
Of
my draft needs list on Twitter?
I don't think I did actually.
Yeah, I want like 6 outside linebackers,
Okay.
4 inside linebackers, 6 corners, 4 safeties. I think a defensive end. In there as well. I think you get
Partridge and a pair.
Yeah, and that's how several people responded back to me there. Look, I mean, that's offense is fine. To me, I mean, obviously you don't want Ben turning the football over. What does he still have? 4 red zone interceptions this year, and the team has something like 8 of turnovers that actually took place, maybe inside the red zone, 6, 7, 8, something along those. Those will get you killed in late game situations like we saw, against the Saints. They weren't interceptions; they were fumbles. You just cannot turn the football over against good teams and expect that you're going to beat them.
Let me ask you this question really quick. I don't know how much you've thought about it. I'm guessing not a lot yet. But how much of a priority, because I know the focus is on the defense, but how much of a priority do you put on bringing guys like Ramon Foster and Jesse James back? A couple offensive pieces that are set to walk.
Look, I love Ramon Foster. I still think he's probably one of the most underrated guards, in the league. But I'm not. It's not a priority to me.
I disagree. I think you got to do pretty much everything you can to try to bring him back. I know his money, he might be asking for a lot, and if there's a point where you can't afford it or he's asking for too much, I get it. But I think he's got to be high priority.
I don't think he wants to leave. I think all that saying that he wants.
Posture.
Yeah, I think it's posturing and all like that. Good for him. I think they can get him back relatively cheap. I mean, because how much more is he going to get to go somewhere else? I mean, he's over 30 for Christ's sakes, and he's not a Pro Bowler, right? I mean, he's a consistent guy, but he is a guy too that's missed some games with injuries. There is a cap somewhere on what his market value is, and if there's a team that wants to pay him $5 million a season, God bless them.
Well, if he's in that relatively cheap range, which I hope he is, then you need to bring him back. It's a shame if you don't bring him back.
Right, and I think he'd be able. Realistically, I think he does not want to go. I mean, let's face it. How many more years does he have?
Yeah, 3.
1.
No, he's got more than that.
Nah, I think he.
You think he has 1 year left?
I think he's got 1 year left in him.
Like literally, he's going to retire in 2020?
No,
or you think 1 year of good play?
1 year of good play left.
No, he can do at least 2.
Yeah,
I think
he needs to get on that Marcus Gilbert body reshaping without the.
He's always been a big guy. He's probably been in first grade, man. It's always worked for him.
Yeah, I'd just like to see him in a little bit better shape, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, he's a big guy,
He's a good athlete. I think for his size, he's a good athlete.
Look, I've always defended Ramon,
not anymore after this 1 year nonsense.
Yeah, look, at his age and all.
How old is Ramon Foster? You're acting like he's 35.
He's like 32, ain't he? 31, 30?
I mean, he's old. He's over 30. Yeah, he's 32.
I mean, come on. I mean, sooner or later, look, Father Time's undefeated, and on bigger offensive linemen like that, and it's not like he hasn't missed games already. So, that's where I'm coming from there. I think you can get him back, but I'm not falling all over. I'm not tripping all over myself to do it. Now, obviously Gilbert, and we don't want to get too deep down this rabbit hole, but at this point with what Gilbert's making and with the games he's missed, you got to cut the bait, cut it right then. What are your views on Burnett at this point? I mean, Burnett has made a couple of plays at this point, but I mean.
You want to talk about a guy that might literally has maybe 1 year left before he retires. I think it's him. And yeah, he's made a couple plays and he had a nice breakup against the Saints, but you need more speed, you need more athleticism, you need a better cover guy, you need someone who's going to be healthier. Those injuries aren't going to go in the right direction at 31 for him now. So move on.
Who else might need to take a pay cut or be gone?
I think those were the big two, Gilbert and Burnett. I mean, you could argue some other guys I don't want back, like a McCullers or a Walton. You want to upgrade your depth there, but those were the two big names in terms of like cap casualties.
Are you paying Bud Dupree that $8 million?
Oh no, God, no, that's the other one. No, I might bring him back for cheaper. I know that's gonna the whole dance, and you're gonna need to lecture about. Well, you picked up the option, and that means you think you value him like this, but no way, no one in their right mind should say that Bud Dupree should have play on that 5th-year option.
Do you think he will? I mean,
no, I don't. I think they cut him and maybe they try to renegotiate and bring him back, but they're out of their mind if they're going to pay Bud. Was it $9 million for 6 sacks?
I mean, I just don't see how you can do that. I mean,
yeah, you can't justify that.
If you have any, if you have any hope in a Denier, and if you hope that maybe you can address that via, I mean, for what he's making, you could probably go out and get a nice secondary backup edge rusher too. An upgrade over Chicolo. For that $8 million right there on that. And
I mean, Dupree's improved this year, but not like that, not that much.
Right, and he has improved, but it's not. He's not an $8 million man.
Nope.
And Watt has improved as well too, but I mean there's still room for improvement there. I think if there's anybody that's been the most improved guy in the last 4 weeks, it's maybe Watt.
Yeah.
Or at least what we've seen. Let's see. From Dane B. Dane, is it Barone or Brony? Dane writes, "Hey guys, big fan of the show. Thanks for all the analysis on this roller coaster of the season." You got that right, Dane. Dave, you mentioned that you predict defensive changes this offseason, and also went on to add that you'd like to see a lot of them. Beside the front runner of giving Keith Butler the boot, what major moves would you like to see the team make on the defensive side of the ball this I wouldn't say so much predictions, but look, I'm okay with keeping Keith Butler as long as he wants to go back to being a linebackers coach again. I mean, because he was, and you want to talk about. I mean, this is a club, or not a club, but a kind of a trio of guys in Mike Tomlin, Randy Fichtner, and Keith Butler been together a long time.
Yeah, Butler's been here since 2004. I don't think people realize that. And Fichtner's since 2007. I think he came in with Tomlin, right? Tomlin hired him.
Right. You go all the way back to Arkansas State and all like that with these guys. I mean, that's going to be some tearful, but moments or whatnot. But oh well, it's part of the business. I get that, but would you be opposed to Keith Butler staying on and get rid of Joey Porter? That's where I'd start. Get rid of Joey Porter.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure that it's going to happen. We can talk about if it should, but I'm not confident that it will.
Yeah, I'd much rather. I think Keith Butler's a better linebackers coach, and that's his calling in life, if you will. Tom Bradley. I mean, I was kind of surprised that he was given that position. Weren't you?
I mean, the biggest thing that surprised me was just a guy that never coached in the NFL before. That's a big step in adjustment. So I think Bradley's going to stay. I don't think they're going to. He's not going to Jack McNell Jr. it, but I don't know how well he's doing because it's hard to know his exactly what he's teaching and what is and isn't working in terms of his philosophy and his methods.
And I'm okay with them. The defensive line coach that they brought over.
Dunbar's been good.
Dunbar's been good. I don't really have any thoughts on Jerry Olszewski. I mean, he's doing the best with what he's got over there, right?
Yeah, I don't want to make any predictions because I'm going to wait till after the season for all that stuff. But I have in my mind what I think will happen and what I want to happen. But I'm going to save that till after the season ends because maybe it doesn't end on Sunday. And playoffs, like you said, could always change stuff.
Right. Let's see if I got any more in here cleaning out this thing out here. Hey y'all, from Jeff Berg. What a disappointing year. Well, at least you have a decent draft position. Has a team who finished with the third best divisional record won the division? Ravens will be the team even if they win the game. If Steelers lose and Ravens win, it would be as follows: Steelers 3-2-1. Browns 3-2-1 and Ravens 3-3. We'd have to look back on that. You got any thoughts on that? I mean,
I don't know, but I imagine it's pretty rare.
Yeah, I imagine it's pretty rare as well too on that aspect. And just another thing, look, you got to win those division games, for starters, and it goes a little bit more deeper than that. Here's one. Let's see from. Wow, this one's from Victor March. Guys, blame defense gets for not holding these late leads down the stretch this season. The offense is perhaps more to blame for not being able to extend leads when they have had the opportunity to do so in the second half of these last 5 games. Starting with the Denver game, they had 12 possessions. With the lead in the second half, this is what they have done. 4 punts, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, 2 lost on downs, 1 missed field goal, 1 made field goal. No TDs and only scored once. I think it's a big reason why they have lost these games. Here they are, if interested. He kind of details those possessions and all like that. Yeah, look, I mean, you never find, I don't think either one of us are not accusing the Steelers' offense of being able to sweep the leg, if you will. There have been times where you think, just get on top of these guys, because it makes defensive play calling a lot easier when you're up 2 scores.
Yeah, the offense hasn't finished like it needs to. It's turned the ball over too much. They've had a chance to put points on the board, whether that's the Denver game, a little bit of the Oakland game, Chargers, Saints. I mean, you can go with any of those losses. So the offense isn't completely absolved from the issues here.
Right, exactly. I mean, and I think when you look at it, though, from 30,000 feet, you see, it makes you tend to gravitate more to defense being to blame. But yeah, I mean, I get you, Victor. I mean, yeah, there's been times where, and look, I will continue to say it. A great offense will make your defense look a lot better, because once you get opposing teams out of what do you want them to do, and they become more predictable in down and distance situations, especially in fourth quarter games, that's when you see a lot of sacks. That's when you see a lot of sloppy turnovers, because of opposing teams pressing. And the Steelers for years have been bad about being able to put their foot on the throat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's a little lipstick on the pig in that situation for the defense, but if all you have is lipstick, then you use what you got. So if the offense can finish some of those off and give the defense some help, I mean, you take it any way you can get it.
All right, thank you for everybody that wrote in there on emails. Keep them coming. We'll continue to try to address these, and hopefully we'll be talking playoffs here, in the near future. But if not, we'll probably be getting into off-season mode here pretty quick here. But in case any of you are still questioning what the full scenarios are at this point for the Steelers, the league released the official list, I believe yesterday there. Pittsburgh clinches the AFC North Division title with a win plus either a Baltimore loss or tie. So a tie against Cleveland is not a bad thing, in case you're curious about that. Or they obviously clinch with or they do, probably a lot of people didn't notice, if for some reason the Steelers tie the Bengals, they can still get in with a Ravens loss as well, too. And then, of course, the other scenario, the Steelers win and an Indianapolis, Tennessee tie happens. Are you feeling any better whatsoever about the Browns' chances of beating the Ravens?
Somebody did message me on Facebook the other day and said, I thought that you were lowballing, talking to me, lowballing the Browns' chances a little too much, and maybe I am. The Browns are definitely a better team. They can certainly win this game. I know I put it at like a 30% chance, and that's just because Baltimore knows how much this means, and their run game is so strong, and they have such a clear identity. That defense against still a rookie quarterback, even though a talented one in Mayfield. Maybe I'm a little low on it, a little conservative with a 30% chance of the Browns winning, but not by much. I still think Baltimore's the clear favorite here.
What are you doing to and look, the first time these two teams met, it was Flacco for the Ravens, and of course you just had
second career start for Baker.
Yeah, second career start for Baker. I mean, you just had or you still had Haley and Hugh Jackson there. What are you doing? Defensive. Here's what I'm doing. There is no way in the hell that Lamar Jackson's running for 100 yards on me, for starters. That is not going to happen. I'm going to make sure he throws the football in this game. They are not going to run on me.
How do you stop that though? Because it's tough to stop. It's
sure.
Easy to say, it's tough to do.
Sure, I'm loading up that front, and if it's costing me, crashing down a little bit harder inside or what or defending the edges and not crashing down as hard inside, I'm not letting that kid outside the pocket. I am not. If it hurts my pass rush, that's fine. I'm not going to look at that stat sheet if I'm Greg Williams after this game and see where the Ravens have rushed for 150 or more yards on me. It's just not happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you do a lot of blitzes. I think you stay in that aggressive mindset that Greg Williams has of a lot of run blitzes, and you get to the quarterback along the way if they do want to throw.
But here's one thing. Lamar Jackson has not been great handling that football this year.
Yeah. A lot of fumbles on that mesh point, not even just forced out, just own mistakes.
Right, and if you can get to him and if you can make him throw to get some uncomfortable situations where he has to throw the football, I think that's when something can happen. And look, I mean, you want to talk about maybe one of the best throws of the season for him so far? That dime that he threw to Mark Andrews in that game this past week, but that was a hell of a throw. He can make the throws. I'm not saying that he can't, but he just has not been put in enough situations so far this year where he's had to make those kind of throws. And I want to see him in as many of those situations as possible on Sunday against the Browns. I think Greg Williams, if there's one guy that can do that, it's Greg Williams. I think he can get him to get Lamar Jackson to do some of the things that they want to make sure that he can do in order to win a football game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Last little minor piece of Steelers news just came in. Steelers announced their winners for the year for the Chief Award, which goes to the best Steelers player who talks with the media, kind of the best media guy, goes to Joe Hayden. And then the Joe Green Rookie of the Year award goes to, of course, Terrell Edmonds, wins it for Pittsburgh this year.
Yeah, that's kind of a gimme right there, right?
Yeah, pretty much a layup because it was like him or or Washington
or Jalen Samuels.
Jalen Samuels could have made a late push on it, but Edmonds was the clear guy.
You could if they had beaten the Saints, I wonder how much. I wonder Samuels. Nah, probably not enough there, but kind of a layup there. Who's the offensive who's the offensive MVP?
I don't think they've listed those results yet.
So no, who's your choice?
Oh, you're legitimately asking me. Right. I have to think about it some more. I wanted to do something kind of quirky and be like David DeCastro because DeCastro's just been so good this year. I still think it's hard to go against Juju, though.
I think it's hard to go against Juju as well, too. Defensive MVP?
Someone asked me yesterday. I know that he doesn't have the numbers that Watt has had this year. I still go Cam Hayward. I think Watt's a really close second. I won't argue with you if you put Watt. I just thought Hayward was the more consistent player overall, and his leadership is a really big impact as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Surprised Hayden got the. Hayden's always good with the media, so I'm not surprised he got the media award.
Yeah, I'm sure they mix it up. I mean, you could give it to Hayward or Foster, but Hayden's cool with me.
All right, let's get back after it again on Friday and talk a little bit about the Bengals. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit that donate button upper right navigational bar. Or we also have a subscription-free version of the site as well that you can find at SteelersDepot.com. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.